Good morning, children. I welcome you again for the social science class. This is your second class. All are fine, right? In the last class, we discussed about the advent of the Europeans. We just saw the introduction. In that, we discussed the sources of modern India. What are the sources of modern India we have? So, in that, especially we saw about only one source, written source. So, what are the written sources are left over in our country, and the archives, that is the preservation of all the documents, records and all. And next, today we are going to see about the material sources. Okay, let me read out the paragraph. Many paintings and statues are the main source of modern Indian history. They give us a lot of information on the achievement of national leaders and historical personalities. So we have many material sources like buildings, paintings, statues. So all these are gives very good information and achievement of our national leaders. Okay, so the examples are St. Francis Church at Cochin. These are the historical buildings. St. Louis Fort at Pondicherry, St. George Fort in Madras. Here we have no St. George Fort. Then St. David Fort in Cuddalore. India Gate. India Gate is in Delhi, right? Parliament House, President House in New Delhi. So these are the historical buildings which says about our India. Okay, so these are the sources of for today's modern India. This shows the styles and techniques of Indian architecture. So how the art and architectures of the Indians were in that period. So these buildings are the very good examples for all these things. Other objectives and materials of religious, cultural and historical values are collected and preserved in museums. So many things have been preserved in the museums. Have you all visited any museum? It's just like exhibition also. In exhibition and all, they'll display some rare items which we didn't see in our life, the olden things which our ancestor used, forefather used. So these things are preserved and kept in the museums. So these museums help us to promote our cultural heritage. So we should not leave that our cultural heritage. It's a very big boon for us, very blessing for us. So we have to protect that. The National Museum in Delhi is the largest museum in India, which was established in 1949. So this is a one more question. The National Museum in Delhi, it is the largest museum in India, which was established in 1949. So this is one of the material source. Modern paintings and statues, as well as some fort historical buildings. I'll repeat the buildings names again. St. Francis Church, St. Louis Church, St. George Fort, St. David Fort, India Gate, Parliament House, President House in New Delhi. Okay. Next point is, coins are the good source to know about the administrative history. So coins we are using, rupees coins. So these are also a very good source to know about the administrative history of our country. The first coinage in modern India under the crown was issued in 1862. So in 1862 only the first coin was released. Edward VII ascended after Queen Victoria, and the coins issued by him bore his model. So during his period, Edward VII, okay, he came to the throne after Queen Victoria. So in this period only the coin was released first. The Reserve Bank of India was formally set up in 1935 and was empowered to issue Government of Indian notes. So in those periods till 1862 till 1934, we were using only coins. But after the Reserve Bank set up in India at 1935, they started issuing Indian notes, rupees notes, currency notes. The first paper currency issued by RBI is on January 1938 was a 5 rupee note bearing the portrait of King George VI. So the first paper currency note, okay, currency paper was issued by the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, in the year 1930. The first it released a 5 rupee note. Okay, it had the portrait picture of King George VI. King George 6. But today we have whose picture in that rupee note? Yes, Mahatma Gandhi. So it all came after 1947. After we got independence only, his portrait, his picture has been put up in the currency. So before that, 10-15 years before that, King George VI portrait was put up in the currency notes. In 1690, Fort St. George was built by the British in Cuddalore. So St. David Fort was built at 1690 by the Britishers in Cuddalore. So these are the material sources we have. So written sources, we have many travel accounts, diaries, autobiographies, pamphlets, government documents, manuscripts. Okay, some people have preserved all those things. I have taken notes on that. So these are the material sources. So by that we come to know about their interest in literature and art, everything. And also archives we had, right? They preserved all the historical documents. It shows about a political, social, economic, cultural and scientific life of our Indian people. Also Tamil Nadu Archive, it is in Madras only, near Egmore. So those things also contain many things about the administrative India. So it is in Danish, Persian, Marathi and French. So in material sources we have modern buildings, historical buildings, everything, right? Statues. So that is all show us about our Indian history, and coins also a very good source to know about the administrative India. Now we are going to see advent of the Europeans. The first one is Portugal. How Portuguese came to our country and how they invaded us. What are the things they did? That is all we are going to see in this lesson now. First one, Portugal. Among the entire European nations, Portugal was the foremost to make a dynamic attempt to discover a sea route to India. So the Portuguese was the first people to come to India to discover a new sea route to India. From their country, from European nation to India, they found a new sea route. Prince Henry of Portugal, who is commonly known as Navigator, encouraged his countrymen to take up the adventurous life of exploring the unknown regions of the world. So King Henry, he is very much interested in navigation, which means to travel through sea. So he encouraged his country people to take adventurous life, to find new things, to explore new things, to unknown regions. So he is very much interested, so he encouraged his people also. Bartholomew Dias, a Portuguese sailor, reached the southernmost point of Africa in 1487. He was patronized by King John II. So Bartholomew Dias, he is a Portuguese sailor. He went to Africa in 1487. So he was caught by King John II. So like this, many people, many sailors have gone to different countries by the encouragement of the King Henry. Okay, so now they started finding new sea routes to different countries. Vasco da Gama, you all know about this name, I think. Yes, children. Vasco da Gama, another Portuguese sailor, reached the southernmost point of Africa, and he continues to journey to Mozambique, from where he sailed to India with the help of Indian pilots. So Vasco da Gama, he also went to Africa, southernmost point of Africa, and he continued his journey to Mozambique. Okay, from where he sailed to India with the help of. So from Mozambique, he came to India with the help of an Indian pilot through air. In 1498, he reached Calicut, where he was cordially received by King Zamarin, the ruler of Calicut. So, in 1498, he reached Calicut. That is, there he was received by King Zamarin. He was cordially received, means he was welcomed by King Zamarin. He is ruler of Calicut. A second Portuguese navigator, Pedro Alvarez Cabral, sailed towards India, following the route discovered by Vasco da Gama, with 13 ships and few hundred soldiers in 1500. So Vasco da Gama is the first person to find new sea route from Portuguese to India. So following Vasco da Gama, one more person, Pedro Alvarez Cabral, he also came to India with the help of this sea route discovered by Vasco da Gama with 13 ships and few hundred soldiers in 1500. On his arrival at Calicut, there arose conflicts between Portuguese and King Zamarin. So he came with many soldiers, right? With the 13 ships and soldiers, nearly few hundred soldiers. So there arose a fight, a quarrel between Portuguese and King Zamarin. They would think, no, why they would come to capture us. So many conflicts would arise, many doubt will arise, right? So Vasco da Gama came to India for the second time in 1501 with 20 ships and founded a trading center at Kannur. So Vasco da Gama again he came to India for the second time in 1501. First he came at 1498. Again he came at 1501 with 20 ships and he found a trading center at Kannur. One after another they established factories at Calicut and Cochin. So one by one they started establishing factories in Calicut, Cochin. King Zamarin attacked the Portuguese in Cochin but was defeated. So King Zamarin, so he started attacking the Portuguese in Cochin but was defeated. Cochin was the first capital of the Portuguese East Indian Company. So they made Cochin as the capital of East India Company. The third voyage of Vasco da Gama in 1524, he soon fell ill and in December 1524 he died in Cochin. So he left his life in Cochin, India. He is a Portugal sailor. From there he came to India for 3 times. First time he was received by King Zamarin, warm welcome. Second time he came with 20 ships in 1501 to set a trading center in Kadalur, and they established many factories in Calicut and Cochin. And for the third time he came in 1524. That time he fell ill and left his life in 1524 in Cochin. So this is a life history of Vasco da Gama. So he found a new sea route to India and he came, he set up her factories and he established his factories in Kannur and Cochin, Calicut, and finally he died in the Cochin itself. Next we are going to see about Francisco de Almeida. His life history from 1505 to 1509, which means the years they spent in India. In 1505, Francisco de Almeida was sent as the first governor for the Portuguese possessions in India. So the Portuguese has many possessions, many properties here in India, right? Now Vasco da Gama has passed away. He left some possessions, some properties. So the Francisco de Almeida was sent as a governor for the Portuguese possessions to govern all these possessions they have in India. Almeida had the aim of developing the naval power of the Portuguese in India. So he has the motive to develop the naval power, navy of the Portuguese in India. This policy is called Blue Water Policy. Blue Water, Sea Water Policy, yes. As Portuguese tried to break the Arabs' monopoly on Indian Ocean trade, it negatively impacted on the trade interest of Egypt and Turkey. Sultans of Bijapur and Gujarat were also apprehensive of the expansion of Portuguese control of ports, which led to an alliance between Egypt, Turkey and Gujarat against Portuguese invaders. In a naval battle fought near Chaul, fleet won a victory over the Portuguese fleet under Almeida's son, who was killed in the battle. Almeida defeated the combined Muslim fleet in a naval battle near Diu, and by the year 1509, Portuguese claimed the naval supremacy in Asia. So they started quarreling, fighting for the naval. There was a naval battle near Chaul for the Muslims and Portuguese. So in that, Muslim fleet won a victory, and Almeida's son was killed in the battle. So Almeida later he defeated the combined Muslim fleet in Diu in the year 1509. So Portuguese claimed the naval supremacy in India. So initially, Muslims had a good trade in the Indian Ocean, but later because of Francisco de Almeida, the Portuguese claimed to be the naval supremacy in Asia. Next we are going to see Alfonso de Albuquerque. His period is 1509 to 1515. After he came, Francisco only, he came to India. The real founder of the Portuguese power in India was Alfonso de Albuquerque. He captured Goa from Sultan of Bijapur in November 1510. In 1515, he established the Portuguese authority over Ormuz in Persian Gulf. He encouraged the marriages of Portuguese with Indian women. He maintained friendly relationship with Vijayanagar Empire. So something sounds good about him, right? He is considered to be the real founder of Portuguese power. Because of him only Portuguese power came very strong in our country. He captured Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur. So, in the year 1510, he captured Bijapur from Sultan. Sorry, he captured Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur. There, he established Portuguese authority over Ormuz in Persian Gulf, right? So, he also encourages marriages between Portuguese and with Indian people. So, Indian women started marrying Portuguese men. Because many men started come from Portugal, so they had a friendly relationship. They married each other. So he also maintained a friendly relationship with Vijayanagar Empire. Next, we are going to see about Nino de Cunha, 1529 to 1538, his period. Governor Nino de Cunha moved capital from Cochin to Goa in 1530. In 1534, he acquired Basin and Bahadur Shah of Gujarat. In 1537, the Portuguese occupied Dayu. Later, they wrested Daman from the local chief of Gujarat. In 1548, they occupied Salsette. So, in 1530, he moved capital from Cochin to. So, initially, Cochin was the capital, but he moved from Cochin to Goa in 1530. Later, the Portuguese occupied Dayu, Daman, and 1548 they occupied Salsette. So day by day they started increasing their power. During the 16th century, Portuguese succeeded in capturing Goa, Daman, Dayu, Salsette, Basin, Chaul and Bombay on the west coast, Hooghly on the Bengal coast and Santom on the Madras coast, and enjoyed good trade benefits. So they started having good trade benefits by capturing many cities, many places in the 16th century like Goa, Daman, Dayu, Basin, Chaul, Bombay, in Madras, Santom, right? So these all helped them to have a good trade. The Portuguese brought the cultivation of tobacco to India. So because of this, people only tobacco came into use in our country. Due to the influence of Portuguese, Catholic religion spread in certain regions of India, India's western and eastern coast. The printing press was set up by the Portuguese at Goa in 1556. So, the Portuguese had a very great influence, right? So, because of this, Catholic religion also started spreading in our country, especially in the western and eastern coast of our country. And 1556, printing press was set up in Portuguese. A scientific work on the Indian medical plants by the European writer was printed in Goa in 1563. In 17th century, the Portuguese power began to decline the Dutch, and by 1739, the Portuguese pockets became confined to Goa, Dayu and Daman. So, a scientific work on the Indian medicine plants. They started researching many things and wrote a big book on the Indian medicinal plants. Okay, it is considered to be the scientific work. It was written by an European writer and was printed in 1563 at Goa, right? So he started researching many of our plants. So this plant contains this medicinal value, this medicinal thing, it is in this plant. So they started finding all these things and they printed a book. So this is how initially they came for trade. First they found a new sea route to our country and they started to trade here, do their business. They had a friendly relationship with the kings ruled over here, and then slowly they set up their trading centers. Okay, they started to spread their religion over here, and also they married women from our country. So this is how they occupied our country. So in this class we saw about the Portugal occupation, capture. So next class we'll look into Britishers, how they come into our country, what are the impact they made. So this is all we'll see in the next class. For this, I'll give you few questions, children. Just learn it. Thank you.